everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to my Y&R chat vlog for Sunday, November 14th. So Meggie has finally been busted. What a joy. And let me tell you, seeing Victor slur, "I love you, baby," over and over again was worth waiting for this entire storyline. I loved the drugged up Victor. It was wonderful. I have to say, while they were on the plane after the wedding, I did start to catch on that Victor was faking, and that made it even more enjoyable. Thank God that Murphy, the hero, was able to Morse code tap his way to Victor's rescue in time. That was really cool. I loved the moment at the ranch after Meggie drugged Victor, where he popped up out of this drunken stupor and he grabs her by the sides of her hair. That was powerful. That was a powerful moment. I really enjoyed that. And then Ronan comes in from the front door. Murphy comes in from the back door. And I loved, by the way, that Murphy wheeled himself in on his wheelchair ahead of all of the officers. Like, Murphy was the arresting officer in that incident. It was awesome. And it was really cool. It was a really good climax to the whole storyline. I loved Sean Young. I thought that those final scenes for her were great. I mean, she played it really, really well. You know, she's trying to back her way out of the situation, and it was really neat. If Murph could talk at that point, I bet he would have had some very choice words for her. But Murphy, he did talk. Murphy speaks for the first time. That was this week. It was wonderful. He looked at Catherine. Of course, we all thought he was going to say something about the investigation for his first words, but he looks up at Catherine and he says, "Love you, old girl." The words that every woman longs to hear. Love you, old girl. Hey, it's a good thing that Catherine didn't decide to have the plug pulled on him. I was also really happy that Victor figured out that it was Meggie who was responsible for Nikki's leap off of the proverbial wagon. I was afraid that that was going to be a little detail that went unresolved. But of course, just as all of the other loose ends were getting neatly tied up with a little bow, Victor had to walk in on Nikki and Deacon in bed. First of all, I have to tell you that I have gone from being a strong Deacon supporter to now I feel disgusted by him when I see him. To be honest with you, ever since he got Nikki drunk in his hotel room and set it up so that Victor would walk in on them the first time, I just feel disgusted when I look at him. He just looks like a pervert to me. I hate it. I mean, I appreciate that Deacon is a character who has his own struggles, you know, and his own weaknesses, but I don't know, seeing him and Nikki in bed together makes me ill. I could not even watch those scenes. I was literally like, no thank you. It was bad. Yeah, it was just really, really revolting, you know. I guess Victor felt exactly the same way. I mean, honestly, I was kind of surprised that Victor was so mean to Nikki, you know, when he found them in bed. Not that he didn't have a right to be, but Victor has actually been pretty tolerant with Nikki up until now. I mean, he stood by her when he found out that she was drinking again after she had lied to him about it, and he stood by her the first time he walked in on her and Deacon in bed, and for some reason, this time, it was apparently the straw that broke the mustache's back, I guess, because he was not having it. I mean, he really, really blew up on Nikki, and it was scary. It was almost violent, you know. He said that he will never forgive her or be with her again, ever. Yeah, right. Nick and Sharon are totally back together. Not one day after Nick's divorce was finalized, he's proposing to Sharon. It's so typical. Gosh, I mean, talk about out of the frying pan and into the fire. I mean, really, truly, it was one day. But something about Nick and Sharon just feels right to me. I don't know how you guys feel. I'm sure there are a lot of happy Nick and Sharon fans out there. Something about them just feels right to me. I loved the lovemaking scenes with Nick and Sharon this week. Breakfast turned into more of a Sexfest. I was proud of that one. With, by the way, some nice shirtless scenes of Nick. Was quite enjoyable this week. You know, I think that the difference in lovemaking between Phyllis and Nick and Sharon and Nick is really notable because, like, when Phyllis and Nick were together, it seemed like it was always very, you know, hurried and hot and like a flash in the pan, you know, and just full of passion but just quick, you know. And the scenes with Nick and Sharon together were slow and sweet and detailed. You know, I mean, I think that's kind of the difference in their relationship, you know. Just it's sort of an interesting metaphor for how both of the relationships' chemistries were. But I like Nick and Sharon back together, back in their bed together, back in their house together, back with their family together. It feels good. I have to admit, I'm happy to see Daisy back. I know that's weird, but for some reason, this character's brand of evil just really appeals to me. I don't know why. The character is just so cold and manipulative, you know, and the actress just nails it, you know, and there's just something about it that I find appealing. I'm not thrilled that Daniel is, you know, her baby's father, especially since it was not wanting to have children that ripped apart Daniel and Amber's marriage, and I liked Daniel and Amber. But I think that bringing Daisy back pregnant was actually a good twist. It was pretty genius. I wasn't expecting it. And I love that this whole thing drives Phyllis crazy. That in and of itself is worth it for me. Phyllis can barely say the word grandma in reference to herself, let alone have it be like this. I mean, like this. It's so scandalous. I really loved the flashbacks of old Phyllis, like the old manipulative Phyllis, right, when she first came onto the show. And we don't see that very much. We rarely see flashbacks of Phyllis from her early days. And it was really fitting and really cool because this whole situation with Daisy rings true to Phyllis for a reason. You know, Daisy wouldn't be the first person to trick a Roma Lottie man into fatherhood, you know? But Phyllis really should know better. She should know better than anyone that this DNA test is meaningless because these paternity tests can be manipulated. She should know she's done it. And I will add that I am very mad at Phyllis for being so insensitive about Lauren throughout this entire thing. When it comes to Phyllis and what Phyllis wants, she has no friends whatsoever. It's all about Phyllis because clearly Lauren was uncomfortable with the idea of Daisy being released from prison to go take this paternity test when she's clearly manipulating the whole situation, but yet Phyllis kept pressing Lauren to go ahead with it completely for her own reasons. You know, it wasn't about being a friend. It was about Phyllis getting what Phyllis wants. She didn't care that Lauren had been through a trauma with Daisy. You know, was she there for her friend during any of this? No, not at all. She just wanted to know if her stupid son managed to knock this girl up. That's all she cared about. And I think that that is super selfish. And if I were Lauren, I would count Phyllis as no friend of mine from this point forward. Frankly, I'm surprised that Michael went along with it. In fact, Michael is being surprisingly insensitive about this entire situation. I mean, am I the only one who thinks that Lauren has a right to be afraid here? It's been like 3 weeks since I've said anything about Y&R, so it's been building and now finally, I like that effect. Okay, there's more. I have more to say. There are storylines that I haven't talked about in 3 weeks that must be touched on. So this will be the end of part 1 of my video series for today. Check back because I will post part 2 for you shortly. I will see you guys then.